Not every love story in Thailand ends with a sunset on the beach. Some end with an empty room, a broken heart, and lessons you wish you had never learned. This is one of those stories. If you enjoy real stories about life, love, and loss far from home, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps us share these moments with more people who need to hear them. Now, let's begin. When I first moved to Pattaya, I wasn't chasing dreams. At 55, I just wanted peace, the kind you don't find anymore in the gray corners of England. My pension wasn't large, but in Thailand, it was enough to live comfortably. A small condo near the beach, mornings with coffee on the balcony, afternoons slipping by under the heavy heat. But no matter how beautiful the sunsets were, there was an emptiness I couldn't quite fill. The city was alive, buzzing, vibrant, but I felt like a ghost passing through it. Not young enough to chase the night, not old enough to give up on it completely. Some evenings I wandered the streets near the beach, letting the noise and neon wash over me. Open-air bars full of laughter, music pouring out into the night, the smell of salt and grilled meat heavy in the air. It was on one of those evenings, without a plan and without much hope, that I stepped into a small, noisy bar tucked between two shops. And everything began. The bar was nothing special. A few crooked stools, a handful of girls chatting near the entrance, a dusty fan pushing around the heavy air. I almost turned around, but then I saw her. She was standing quietly by the wall, sipping something from a plastic cup. There was something in the way she held herself, relaxed, almost lost in her own thoughts. She wasn't smiling for the room. She wasn't laughing too loud or trying to catch anyone's eye. She simply existed there, like a small calm in the middle of all the noise. She wore simple clothes, denim shorts and a faded pink t-shirt, her hair tied back in a loose ponytail. No heavy makeup, no flashing jewelry. Natural. And yet there was a softness about her that pulled my attention like a magnet. She noticed me looking and gave a shy, fleeting smile, the kind that slips away before you can be sure it was real. I ordered a drink and sat at the bar, sneaking glances without meaning to. She stayed where she was, gently swirling the straw in her cup, as if in no hurry to move. After a few moments, she took a step toward me, slow, almost cautious. "Hi," she said, her voice barely louder than the music. I smiled back. "Hi." And somehow, in that tiny moment, something unspoken passed between us. She sat down on the stool next to mine, leaving just enough space between us to keep it from feeling rushed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The music was too loud, the lights too harsh, and yet all I could focus on was the way she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Nervous, but not scared. Curious. "My name Fawn," she said finally, tapping her chest lightly with her fingers. Simple, direct. "Nice to meet you, Fawn," I replied. "I'm Mark." She repeated it softly. Mark, almost tasting the name, letting it settle on her tongue. I smiled at that. It had been a long time since anyone said my name like it actually meant something. Her English was broken, but she made the effort. She asked where I was from, how long I had stayed in Pattaya, if I liked Thai food. Simple questions, but asked with a kind of warmth that made them feel bigger than they were. I told her about England, cold, gray, busy, and she laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. I told her I loved Thai food, but couldn't handle the spicy dishes, and she laughed even harder. I don't know how long we sat there, trading pieces of our lives across the language gap. It didn't matter. The important things didn't need perfect English. A smile, a laugh, a look. That was enough. After a while, the bar around us began to fade into background noise. The flashing lights, the clinking bottles, the shouting voices. They were there, but they didn't matter. I found myself wanting more time with her, but not here. Not in the thick air heavy with beer and cigarette smoke. "You want to get some food?" I asked, half shouting over the music. She blinked, surprised, then smiled. A real bright smile that lit up her whole face. "Yes," she said, nodding quickly. We left a few baht on the counter and stepped outside into the warm night. The street buzzed with life, scooters weaving through traffic, tourists bargaining with vendors, the distant thump of bass from the other bars. She walked close to me, but not clinging, comfortable, like we were two people who had known each other longer than a few hours. We found a food cart on a quiet side street, the kind that served steaming bowls of noodle soup under flickering fluorescent lights. I let her order for both of us. When the bowls arrived, she watched me closely as I picked up the chopsticks, ready to laugh if I fumbled. I didn't disappoint her. The soup was fiery with chili, and after one mouthful, I was coughing and gasping for air. Fawn burst into laughter, covering her mouth with both hands, her eyes dancing with amusement. "Too spicy for you," she teased, her voice playful. I laughed too, wiping my forehead, feeling ridiculous and strangely happy. Happier than I had felt in a very long time. After we finished eating, we kept walking. Nowhere special, just drifting through the side streets, letting the night guide us. Fawn talked more once we left the noise behind. She told me about her village, small, hot, surrounded by rice fields. She missed it sometimes, she said, but there was no money there, no chance for a better life. Her voice was soft when she spoke about her family, a mother who worked in the fields, a younger brother still in school. She didn't complain, didn't sound bitter. It was just the way things were. I listened, really listened, and realized how rare that had become for me. Back home, conversations always seemed rushed, shallow, transactional. Here, under the warm Thai sky, with this girl walking beside me, everything felt slower, more real. Every now and then she'd glance up at me, as if checking to see if I was still there, still listening. Each time I smiled, and each time she smiled back. We stopped at a small convenience store, bought 2 cans of beer, and sat on a low wall near the beach. The ocean was a dark, endless stretch in front of us, the waves whispering secrets we couldn't quite hear. We didn't talk much after that, just sat there, sipping cheap beer, watching the world breathe around us. It wasn't about impressing each other, it wasn't about pretending. It was simple, and in its simplicity, it was perfect. When I finally got back to my condo that night, the place felt emptier than usual. It wasn't any different, really. The same worn-out couch, the same flickering kitchen light, the same faint smell of sea salt drifting through the open window. But something inside me had shifted. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring out at the dark sea, thinking about Fawn. Her laughter, her easy way of moving through the world, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. I wasn't foolish enough to think it was love, not yet, but there was something there, something warm and dangerous, growing quietly inside me. I told myself not to get carried away. I was too old to be chasing fairy tales, too old to fall for a girl half my age who barely spoke my language. But none of those warnings settled in my chest. They floated somewhere above me, logical and distant. What settled was the memory of her sitting beside me, sipping beer, the sea behind her, the soft streetlights making her look almost unreal. I pulled the thin blanket over myself and closed my eyes. And for the first time in a long time, I drifted into sleep, not feeling alone. In the days that followed, Fawn started coming over more and more. Sometimes in the afternoons, with bags of sticky rice and grilled chicken. Sometimes at night, wearing nothing but an oversized t-shirt that barely covered the curve of her thighs. She moved around my condo barefoot, humming softly, her hips swaying with that lazy, effortless grace that made it impossible to look away. It wasn't something she tried to do. It was simply the way she was. One evening, after dinner, we ended up on the couch, her legs thrown over mine, her body warm against my side. The TV droned on in the background, forgotten. She laughed at something I said, and as she leaned closer, her fingers found the collar of my shirt, idly playing with the fabric. Her bare thigh slid against mine, smooth and hot from the humid night. I turned my head to say something, I don't even remember what, and found her lips inches from mine. For a moment, we just hovered there, breathing the same thick air. Then she kissed me, slow at first, tasting, testing, and then deeper, with a hunger that sent a shiver through my whole body. Her hand slid under my shirt, exploring, nails lightly scraping against my skin. She climbed onto my lap, straddling me, her t-shirt riding up, her bare skin pressing against me in all the right places. My hands found her hips, her waist, the small of her back. She was soft everywhere, and she smelled of salt and jasmine and something sweeter I couldn't name. There was nothing careful about the way we touched each other. No awkwardness, no hesitation. It was messy, clumsy, real. It was two lonely souls finding warmth in the middle of a city that didn't care if you disappeared. That night, we didn't just share a bed. We shared something deeper, something that felt like it might actually matter. After that night, Fawn didn't really leave, not in any official way. At first, she just stayed until morning, stealing my t-shirts to wear around the condo, leaving her scent on my sheets, on my skin. Then she stayed 2 nights in a row, then 3. Soon, there was a toothbrush beside mine, her bottles of jasmine-scented lotion cluttering the bathroom counter. Her tiny denim shorts and tank tops began to mix with my neatly folded clothes in the closet. Some mornings, she would wake me by slipping under the covers, her body still warm from sleep, her hands wandering lazily over my skin. Her kisses were soft, unhurried, exploring every line of my face like she was memorizing me. She wasn't shy anymore, not behind closed doors. She would straddle me in the early light, her hair falling around us like a curtain, her body moving slowly, teasing, taking her time. Sometimes we never even made it out of bed until late afternoon, tangled in each other, laughing, dozing, starting all over again whenever one of us so much as brushed against the other. There was something addictive about the way she touched me, like she wasn't just touching my body, she was reaching somewhere deeper, peeling away years of loneliness one kiss at a time. Life outside the condo faded into a blur. The bars, the noise, the restless city, it all disappeared when she was with me. We built a small world between those 4 walls, a world of slow mornings, lazy afternoons, whispered jokes, shared meals, soft moans in the darkness. A world where, for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't just existing, I was living. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand moment, no sudden realization. It was quieter than that, like a slow tide rising, unnoticed until it was already lapping at your feet. One evening, we were lying on the couch, her head resting on my chest, the TV playing some old Thai soap opera neither of us were really watching. She traced lazy circles on my arm with her fingertip, her breath warm against my skin. "You like stay Thailand long time?" she asked, her voice sleepy, almost teasing. I smiled, running my hand through her hair. "I think I could stay forever." She giggled, twisting a strand of my hair between her fingers. "Maybe you need Thai wife," she said, half joking, half serious. The words hit me harder than I expected. I looked down at her, at the soft curve of her cheek, the way her lips parted slightly as she drifted closer to sleep, at the way she fit against me like she had always been meant to be there. Maybe I did need a Thai wife. Maybe I needed this, her, more than I was willing to admit. The thought scared me, but it also warmed something deep inside me that had been cold for a long time. In the days that followed, I found myself thinking about it more and more. Marriage, a life together, something real, something permanent. Fawn never pushed. She never begged or hinted or pressured. She just kept being there, filling the spaces in my life I hadn't even realized were empty. And little by little, the idea stopped feeling crazy. It started feeling like the most natural thing in the world. I didn't buy a ring, didn't plan a fancy dinner or a speech. That wasn't how things worked between us. It happened one evening, just as the sky was bleeding into night, the sea turning deep and dark beyond the balcony. We had spent the afternoon in bed, tangled in each other, the kind of lazy, endless closeness that blurs where one body ends and the other begins. Fawn wore one of my shirts again, too big for her, hanging off one shoulder, barely covering the curve of her hips. Her bare legs swung idly over the edge of the balcony chair as she sipped a cold beer. I watched her from across the room, feeling that familiar tightness in my chest, that pull. She caught me staring and smiled, that soft, knowing smile that still made my heart stumble. "Why you look me like that?" she teased, her voice light. I crossed the room, knelt in front of her, took the beer from her hand, and set it aside. She blinked at me, surprised, her playful smile faltering just a little. "I don't want you to ever leave," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. "I want you to stay. Here, with me. Always." Her eyes widened, searching my face, trying to see if I was serious. I was. "I want you to be my wife, Fawn," I said. Simple, honest, no games. For a moment she just stared, and then, slowly, a tear slipped down her cheek. She laughed through it, embarrassed, wiping it away with the back of her hand. "You crazy," she whispered, shaking her head with a wide, trembling smile. "But I want to." She leaned forward, wrapping her arms around my neck, pulling me against her. Her kiss was fierce, almost desperate, her body pressing into mine, her hands fisting the fabric of my shirt. We ended up on the floor, tangled together, laughing and kissing and clinging like the world outside the room didn't exist. And in that moment, it didn't. It was just us. Two broken people, piecing something whole together, one kiss at a time. We didn't have a big wedding. No church, no fancy white dress, no crowd of guests. Just a few papers signed at a government office, a couple of smiling witnesses who barely spoke English, and a tired official who stamped our documents without even looking up. Fawn wore a simple white dress she bought from a market stall the day before. I wore a clean shirt and the best pair of trousers I owned. She looked beautiful, not in the glittering magazine cover way, but real, radiant. When it was done, she clung to my arm and smiled up at me like I had just given her the world. And maybe, in some ways, I had. We celebrated with dinner at a small seafood restaurant by the beach. She fed me bites of spicy prawns, laughed when I gasped for water, leaned in close when the night breeze grew cooler. For a while, I forgot everything else, forgot the years behind me, forgot how easily things can slip away. But there were small moments, quiet, almost invisible, that stayed with me. Like how, when I asked about her family coming to visit for the wedding, she just smiled and shook her head. "Too far," she said. "Too expensive." Or how, when I talked about visiting her village one day, she laughed and changed the subject. Or how she always paid cash for everything, never using a card, never writing anything down. At the time I brushed it all aside, told myself it didn't matter, told myself love was enough. I didn't know yet that love, real or not, doesn't always protect you, especially when you're the one who wants to believe more than anything else. The months that followed were some of the happiest of my life. We settled into a rhythm, lazy breakfasts on the balcony, afternoons spent wandering the markets, evenings curled up together with a bottle of cheap wine and the sound of the sea whispering outside. Fawn filled the condo with life. Little things, fresh flowers she picked up from street stalls, colorful cushions she insisted we needed, tiny charms hanging from the doorknobs for luck. She laughed easily, touched me often, a brush of fingers on my arm, a kiss on my neck as she passed behind me, her head resting on my shoulder when we watched the endless sunsets melt into the Gulf. Sometimes I would wake in the middle of the night and just watch her sleep, one leg kicked out of the blanket, her face peaceful in the soft glow from the window. It felt perfect, dangerously perfect, like I had stolen something precious from the universe, something I had no right to keep. One evening, after a long walk on the beach, she clung to my arm and said, "I happy with you, Mark. You good man." It was simple, but it hit harder than any grand declaration. I kissed her forehead, pulled her close, and told myself, finally, that this was it. This was home. This was forever. And then the email came. Just a few cold words from my lawyer back in England. Unresolved paperwork with my pension transfer. Deadlines. Signatures needed in person. Nothing Fawn could help with. Nothing I could ignore. I showed her the message, half hoping she would ask me to stay, beg me not to go. But she just smiled, that same sweet smile, and said, "Only short time. I wait you, promise." I held her tighter that night, made love to her slowly, memorizing every inch of her skin, every sound she made when she whispered my name. I didn't want to leave, not even for a day. But sometimes life demands things from you at the worst possible moment. And sometimes you don't realize what you're losing until it's already too late. The morning I left was heavy with heat and silence. Fawn helped me pack, folding my shirts with quick, efficient hands, slipping little sachets of jasmine into my suitcase like small, invisible goodbyes. She acted cheerful, teasing me about bringing back English chocolate, about not forgetting her. But there was something in her eyes, a tightness, a flicker of something she tried to hide. We didn't talk much during the drive to the airport. She held my hand tightly, her thumb brushing slow circles over my knuckles, as if memorizing the feel of me. At the departure gate, she stood on her toes to kiss me, a long, lingering kiss that tasted like salt and something bitter beneath it. "You hurry back," she whispered against my lips. "I wait." I nodded, swallowing down the lump rising in my throat. "I'll be back before you even miss me," I lied, forcing a smile. She smiled too, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Then she turned and walked away, small, strong, disappearing into the crowd without looking back. I watched her until I couldn't see her anymore. On the flight, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had left something unfinished, something fragile behind. But I told myself it was just nerves, just the sadness of parting. Fawn loved me. She would wait. I believed that with everything I had. 3 weeks. That's all it would take. 3 weeks, and I would be back. Back to her. Back to our home. Back to the life we were building together. Or so I thought. The moment I stepped off the plane, something felt wrong. It wasn't the heat. I was used to that now, or the sticky, chaotic air of Pattaya. It was something colder, something tightening inside my chest. The taxi ride back to the condo blurred past. I stared out the window, imagining Fawn waiting for me, maybe barefoot in one of my old t-shirts, smiling that sleepy, mischievous smile. When we pulled up in front of the building, it was late afternoon. The sun was heavy and low, throwing long shadows across the pavement. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time, my suitcase bumping awkwardly behind me. The door was unlocked. That was the first thing. I frowned, pushed it open, calling her name softly, almost playfully at first. "Fawn?" Silence. The second thing was the smell. Empty rooms smell different. No lingering perfume, no cooked rice, no sweetness of jasmine on the air. I stepped inside and stopped cold. The living room was bare. Not just messy, bare. No cushions, no flowers, no framed photo of us that she had insisted on putting near the window. The small table where we had shared 100 lazy meals, gone. The cheap rug she loved because it felt good on toes, gone. I dropped my suitcase and moved through the condo in a daze. Bedroom, stripped. Closet, empty. Bathroom, just a single crumpled towel on the floor. Even the cheap little charm she had tied to the doorknobs for luck, gone. It wasn't just that she had left. She had erased herself completely, as if she had never been here at all. I sank down onto the bare mattress, the breath knocked out of me. And for the first time in years, I felt old. Really old. Old. And very, very alone. At first, I refused to believe it. Maybe there had been a mistake. Maybe Fawn had to leave suddenly. Maybe she would be back any moment, walking through the door, laughing at how worried I looked. But hours passed. The sun set. The street below grew quiet, and no one came. I called her number over and over again. First it rang and rang, then nothing. Disconnected. I sat in that empty condo until morning, the walls closing in around me, the weight of the silence pressing harder with every hour. Finally, I did the only thing left. I went to the local police station. A young officer listened patiently as I stumbled through my story. Marriage, sudden disappearance, everything gone. He nodded, asked a few questions in broken English, filled out a small form. Then he shrugged. "She adult," he said simply. "Maybe she move, not crime." I stared at him, not understanding. "But she took everything. She took furniture, clothes, even my bed." The officer smiled politely. "You give her key, yes? She live with you, yes?" I nodded helplessly. "Then no problem. Family problem only, not police problem." He handed me a photocopy of the report, a meaningless piece of paper, and motioned for the next person in line. And just like that, it was over. No search, no investigation, no help. Fawn was gone, and there was nothing I could do. I stayed in Pattaya. Where else could I go? The condo was empty, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. It was the last place she touched, the last place I had been happy, even if it was a lie. Days blurred into each other. I wandered the markets alone, sat by the beach alone, drank cheap beer alone. I replayed every conversation in my head, searching for signs I had missed. Every laugh, every kiss, every whispered promise. Had it all been fake? Had I ever really known her at all? The truth settled over me like the heavy heat, slow, smothering, impossible to shake off. I realized how little I had known. I didn't know her real family name. I didn't know the exact village she came from. I didn't know who her friends were, where she had hidden my things, where she had run to. I knew only what I wanted to know, and she gave me exactly that. A soft hand to hold, a warm body to sleep beside, a dream to believe in. I don't hate her. Sometimes, late at night when the sea breeze creeps through the broken window, I almost thank her. She reminded me that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about trusting the wrong person to fill the empty spaces inside you. Some ghosts don't haunt you out of love. They haunt you because you invited them in, and you let them take everything. I left the door unlocked, just in case. If this story touched something inside you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. There are many more stories waiting for you. Stories of hope, heartbreak, and the truth we sometimes find far from home.